I was about to say that this is always one of my favourite interviews.
Oh, thank you.
I really enjoy seeing you guys. It's always fun.
Heyo!
Ew.
It's Mr. Frank Turner!
Pretending to be a Queen audience with Freddie Mercury.
Yes. Can we just please start by acknowledging the fact you have Jimmy Eat World in support?
I know, and I was just being casual about it, and I shouldn't be, because it's really not a thing to be casual about. It's staggering to me that they said yes, to be blunt. I mean, I got clarity when it came out in 1998, I think that record came out. I'm a big fan. I've known Jim a little for a while. He's a super lovely guy. And, we wanted to have a big support for this tour, and I said,
that's a big support.
Yeah, well, I said Jimmy Weldon. I was kind of kidding, and my booking agent sort of said, I mean, it's worth an ask, and he said, you've got Jim's number. Why don't you text Jim? So I did, and Jim came back and went, yeah, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? And here we are, and it's making me feel good about my life.
It is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
So,
plus, I get to see Jimmy World every day.
I know, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I do have a question I asked Jim a couple of years ago, and I'm going to ask you a bit later, but it's sort of like a somber question, so I don't want to start the interview off with it.
Fair enough.
So how is the current tour going? Because you got this, and you got Ali Pally left. It's last
Cardiff.
And Cardiff.
Do not forget the Welsh.
Simon,
if I've told you one thing over the years, it's do not forget the Welsh.
I'm apologising to the Welsh nation.
Actually, to be honest, so am I, in the sense that, like, God, okay, right. You know how we live in England, which is part of Great Britain, which is part of the United Kingdom,
yes.
and there's all those different layers of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And boy, do I have to be careful about that, because like back when we did the album release tour a year ago, I was like, UK tour, and thinking to myself, it is a UK tour. There's Northern Ireland included, so I can use the words UK, and then of course there were no Welsh states on the tour. So and I get it. Do you know what I mean? I grew up in a town where nobody ever came on tour, so I understand. Well, yeah. And then this tour, I was like, okay, I'm not going to call it UK tour because there's no Northern Irish states, so it's a tour of Great Britain, and it has gone well because we have now got Cardiff and we had Scotland in as well. Yes. So this is a tour of Great Britain, and I'm excited to be in Cardiff tomorrow. So anyway, sorry, to answer your question before getting into that kind of thing, it's going really well. I mean, it's a short tour. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a big tour. We're just over a weekend and we're nearly done, which is an odd thing mentally. Yeah. I've had a lot of people telling me that they've enjoyed these shows as much as, or if not more than any that I've done in the past. So it seems to be going well.
Well, we'll see tonight.
Yeah. Well. Okay.
Right. As always, I have some fan questions.
Okay.
I'm too lazy to write my own.
The other thing, by the way, about this tour, just quickly, I've also quit smoking, and I'm in the middle of having to really grudgingly admit that everybody else was right. I've spent the last few years kind of going, smoking doesn't affect my voice. It doesn't affect my voice. And then I quit smoking a month ago, and I can sing like a fucking bird. So I'm the idiot, basically. Right,
so, new book. What's that about?
It's about songwriting.
Nice. That was a quick answer.
I mean, I've written another book about myself.
Yeah.
So another book for which I had to do essentially zero research, which makes my life easier. But yeah, it's coming out in March and it's exciting.
So on songwriting, I meant to ask you this question last time we met, which was one of the standard journalistic questions to ask a musician is, if you could go back and rewrite any song, what would you do? You did that because you released a whole album. Yeah. Was that process rewarding? Was it worth the time and effort?
Definitely. I mean, the thing with that, I mean, a lot of it's drawn on the fact that we quite often do alternative arrangements live, which in turn is inspired by the fact that, like, when I was a kid, I remember my sister getting Counting Crows singles on cassette with a little cardboard sleeve.
Cassette
tape. Youngsters, and my sister, the Counting Crows, the B-sides were always like complete reworkings of songs from the record. So really early on in my music listening career, I was kind of made aware of the possibility that you could do that, and like, you know, to this day I kind of prefer the alternative version of Rain King to the one that's on August and everything after. So, you know, it's always a thing that we've done, and with that disc and songbook, like some of them were just kind of documenting live versions we've been doing for years, and some of them it was a case of trying to write new arrangements, and it's really fun and really rewarding.
Okay. I meant to ask that a couple of years ago, but you know.
Well, we got there.
Yeah. In the end. Right. So Claire would like to know: do you remember playing on Bournemouth Beach like a gazillion years ago?
I do. Yes, and it was after a show at the Green Room, which was I think it was called the Green Room. There's Green something or other.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up for the gig. It was a hotel that has now closed, and that night I opened with a new song called "I Knew Proof Rock" before I got famous.
Ah.
But what I remember from it is that like we finished the gig, and everyone was in a good mood, and there's only been about 30 people at the gig anyway, and it was just like, should we go and sit on the beach and play more songs? And everyone said, yay. And then about halfway through playing on the beach, I was like, it is freezing and I'm dying. And I've bitten off more than I can chew, and I'm really drunk, and I want to go to sleep. And why have I done this? But it was, I mean, I'm kidding. Yeah. It was a blast. I mean, that kind of stuff was so much fun.
Also, she's put, now you've been playing Be More Kind live for the best part of a year. Has the audience reaction to the new songs taken you by surprise? And are there any emerging fan favourites you weren't expecting?
I mean, I kind of just sort of I try not to expect would be the answer to that, because I've learned the hard way that like what an audience takes to its heart and what they don't is difficult to guess.
This is my favourite, love it.
Yeah, well, yeah, totally. I mean, it's funny. Like the other thing is that like quite a lot of the material I write is a slow burn, I guess, with people. It seems to me. I mean, obviously, that's another hard thing for me to judge. But like, it's been interesting. Like on the album release tour. I mean, the album had only just come out, and there was quite a lot of new songs that we were playing then, and people in the audience were like, "Oh, okay." And then now, like, we played "There She Is" live the other day. And like it went off, like the reaction in the room was just incredible, and it hadn't been like that a year ago. And it was like, oh, you guys have been listening and paying attention to this one. That's nice, you know. So I mean, it's again, every time a record comes out, and you know, about a year later, you do get that kind of sense of what's landed and what hasn't. Yeah. I don't think that's not the only factor in choosing a set list. You know, I think that there's an interesting balance to be struck in when playing a show between leading and following your audience. Do you know what I mean? You've got on some levels you want to play what people want to hear, but on other levels I want to
play the new stuff.
Yeah, well, I want to play what I want people to hear. You know, it's a pleasure and kind of a relief almost to be able to say a year after album 7 coming out that there's a good sort of 4-5 songs off the record which are definitely like A-list numbers now, and they're
still good. They're not bad songs.
Well, thank you. Phew.
Right, Gabrielle wants to know, since you started playing with bands, so since Million Dead Days, what is the longest you've ever gone without performing in front of people with a guitar?
First of all, like to really, I'm imagining this as the singer Gabrielle asking me this question. It's making me feel much better.
Yes, it is.
Not that there's nothing against Gabrielle asking the question, but it's just really tickling me, you know, that she would care about any aspect of my life. I don't know is the short answer, but like since the beginning of Million Dead, not longer than like a couple of months. But I mean, I was in bands before that. Knee Jerk was a going concern. There was probably about a year when I didn't play any shows in between Knee Jerk and Million Dead, simply because I just wasn't doing anything musically other than making weirdo electro music at my house, none of which anyone ever needs to hear. We do. I mean, I've got it. It's very, very ambient.
Why have you kept it?
Well, because there are actually some snippets of it that I'm interested in. The other day, actually, when I was the other day, this is the facet of getting older. I keep saying the other day when referring to like 2 years ago. I found like a stash of like mini discs. Remember them? Yes. Which had some mixes I'd done on like a 4-track that I've long gone of some electro ideas that I had, and I ripped it. I've had to like Google a service to rip a mini disc. It was crazy, but I ripped it, and it's just interesting to me because there are some melodic turnarounds on there and some snippets that I think are quite good and that I wrote, so I can use them if I want. I mean, actually, the guitar riff to Josephine came from one of those songs. The verse riff of Josephine is borrowed from one of those old compositions, and I remembered that one. Yeah. But there's a whole bunch I don't remember. But I mean, that's probably then. I mean, Knee Jerk, we did 3 tours between 98 and 2000. But they were like once a year kind of thing.
Yeah. So Tom would like to know, Lost Evening 3, it's not going to be the next Fire Festival, is it? You have actually got a venue booked.
You know, I've watched that documentary, and I mean, being somebody who works in the production side of the music industry as I do, it was staggering. Like, good. You're watching it being like, I don't even know why any of the production companies involved even said yes to it. You get a call saying, can you put on a festival? If I got a call saying, can you put on a festival in a venue in 45 days, I would have been dubious about it. Let alone on a fucking island. Do you know what I mean? Like, just no. It's just never, ever, ever going to happen. There is no way that we can do it. And there's a bit in the Netflix documentary where they kind of go, you know, who talks about, who remembers the disaster that was Woodstock? And it's like, everyone. That's what it's famous for, that it was a fucking car crash and they had to like fly food in and everybody got spiked by the acid and everybody's shows were terrible. That's what everyone remembers about Woodstock as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. Like, you know, it was a gathering of the tribes and it was the first festival, but it was famously dog shit. Like, you know, Bob Dylan didn't go for a good reason, despite the fact they held it in Woodstock because he lived there and they were trying to get him to play and he refused because he knew it was going to be a car crash. You know, that's why it was in Woodstock. I mean, first of all, it wasn't in Woodstock. It was 50 miles down the road because their original site got refused, much like in Fire Festival. But they tried to basically book a festival next to Bob Dylan's house in an attempt to convince him to say yes to playing it.
You could just walk out, it's fine.
Yeah, and he was just like, go fuck yourself. And then the local council, quite possibly at Dylan's instigation, refused them the license, but they'd already branded it as Woodstock Festival, so it wasn't in Woodstock. It was 50 miles away. But it was a complete disaster. Yeah. Anyway, yes, we have a venue. It's sold out, and it's going to be great, and the bill's awesome.
So what can we expect? Just same sort of setup as in the UK?
Yeah, it's a similar deal. I mean, the idea is to make it a kind of annual package. I know there's a bunch of people who are pissed that it's not in the UK this year, but in fairness, it would the whole point of it for me was always that it was a portable concept, and that you just need the right sort of venue with the surrounding bars and blah blah blah. And all that kind of thing. So we. And in fact, the only reason we did it in 2 years in the first place is because the first year it went surprisingly well.
Yeah.
Like none of us have put on a festival before. And we were like, maybe let's just kind of consolidate what we've learned from year one by doing it in the same place again, but then...
And let's find an island.
Yeah, and then next year it'll be somewhere else, an island maybe, who knows? No, it's not going to be an island. But yeah, we want to move it around the world. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And indeed around the country and all the rest of it. So, it's definitely... I'm excited. The bill this year, it is ridiculous to me. Yeah. Like, if I had to pick my 4 favourite people I wanted to play shows with, it would probably be Loud and Right, John K. Sampson, Against Me, and the Whole Steady.
Yeah, it's good. Right. I've got a couple more questions, but first we always do a little gift.
I know.
Prize.
I love it.
And as you made the same mistake as me last year and you got engaged.
Congratulations.
Yes, to you too.
Excellent.
And also, a couple of years ago, your tour manager made a joke to me as I was leaving saying that I needed to get a Lego version of you. So I've combined the two, and we have a Be More Turner.
Oh my goodness!
Lego Man.
That is absolutely incredible. I'm really impressed. It looks like my missus as well. I probably shouldn't have said that on camera. Man, thank you. That's so sweet.
That's all right.
Hug. Thank you. I'm going to call her in a minute and show her a picture of
that. That was technically a joke from 2 years ago.
I love it. Man, the delayed humour is the best.
Yes.
I appreciate it. That's so cool.
And I thought, be more Turner instead of be more kind.
I love it. She is incidentally in the middle of discussing whether or not she's going to change her name.
She has to now.
Oh boy. I'm not going to put it quite like that when we discuss it, because that way lies.
This guy from this radio station says you have to, so do it.
So do it. Yes. Yeah, that'll go down.
Right. The question.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. So the question that I wanted to ask you, which I asked Jim a couple of years ago, is
right.
A lot of people say like your music has changed their lives. It's like saved them. It's without your music, their lives would be different. How do you cope with that? And when you're writing, do you ever consciously think about that? Going, people really hold on to these words. I need to like.
To answer that in reverse order, no, I try actively not to think about that when I'm writing, because I think that would be an extremely destabilizing influence on my writing.
That's exactly what Jim said.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? It would. How would one even begin to put pen to paper with that kind of consideration on board? In terms of people saying it, I mean, like, on some levels, it's still just kind of, it's humbling and confusing and weird and like, what the fuck are you talking about? But I guess the thing for me, it's a similar thing to people having tattoos with my artwork or lyrics or whatever in them, which it was a thing with when I first saw it, I found it very difficult to get my head around. But the way that I get my head around it is just thinking of the fact that I have black flag tattoos, you know, and I have weaker than tattoos. And I don't regard any of them as weird. Do you know what I mean? And in fact, to go back to what we're talking about, there are songs that I would say have changed my life and taken me away from dark places and really helped me and all the rest of it. You know, and so it's clearly a sentiment I can understand.
Yeah.
The thing I have an issue with is applying that to myself.
Yeah.
From a third party. That just feels odd to me and I hope it continues to feel odd to me because I think if you're the kind of person who is just naturally comfortable with that, that would make you an odd / like up your own ass person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I kind of I don't want to kind of become rested with that as a concept. I don't think.
Okay.
But it's I mean it's a lovely sentiment for people to say, and it happens to me all the time, man. Have you heard the new Pedro the Lion record?
No, not yet.
It's the fucking greatest thing you'll hear in a million years, and the opening track on it, Yellow Bike, has just made my year so far.
Right, I know we've got to wrap this up. So
cool.
Thank you very much for your time.
It's my
As
pleasure.
always,
You know,
I love speaking to you.
Next time we do this, let's schedule more time.
Yes. Oh, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Wicked.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.